Hello and welcome back to Cody's Radio Workshop. On the bench today I've got a parcel. This is something that I bought online recently. It is a radio and this is exactly how it arrived. Just the bubble wrap. You can just about see the radio's handle there. Piece of paper in the back, I'm not exactly sure what that is yet. But on the sides you can see again the handle and the handle. Underneath this label there is the original label that he printed out that has obviously got very wet, and I believe that the courier, I'll use that in the loosest sense of the term, which is Every or Hermes or whatever you want to call them, and form your own opinion, I've got mine, has repackaged and relabeled. So let's open it and find out, because at the moment I know as much as you do and you know as much as I do about it. I've decided to open it probably from the end, but use a scalpel blade the wrong way around so as not to damage the radio at all. Nevertheless, that on one side, what have we got? We've got a broken Robert's R505, and when I say broken, this isn't how I bought it. Let me zoom you down, you can have a look. But aside from that, what have we got going on the inside? We've got some felt going on the inside of the bottom door. Just zoom back out again. Which is something I've not seen before. There will be a serial number plate underneath that. What on earth? But again, aside, the speaker's not connected. Welcome back. So, after all that shenanigans opening up and finding the damage on there, I've been in touch with the guy that sold it to me. He's pursuing a claim with the courier, and he's actually refunded me, which I didn't actually ask for. But here's what it is. He's refunded me. He doesn't apparently want the radio back as such, so I'm going to still see if I can try and make it something. Try and make it work at least, and pretty it up. If I can pretty it up and make it work, and obviously do something about this dial face, I think the most honourable thing would be, once I've done it, is to send it back to him at no cost, because it's cost me nothing apart from my time and a couple of components, and I might have had a little fun along the way. So without any further ado, let's go. So we know the aerial's broke, the dial face is broke, the switch has been dished in, damaging the top of the dial scale, and underneath it will have pushed that right down. So yeah, let's get some power onto it and see what the state of play is with it operationally now. Originally, according to the online listing, it was for parts or not working, because it didn't work. So I'm not expecting it to work, but I might get an indication of the state of play just by powering it up. So it's on the bench power supply. I've got 9 volts dialed in. Let's turn the current limit down so it doesn't run away, and energize the power supply. Now this here is a non-standard knob, but standard for this set, because this originally would have been a British Wireless for the blind set. So it looks a little different. Normally it would have something like this on, but with a little black indicator mark so you could see what's what. But these ones were more tactile for the partially sighted. So I need to turn it on to one of the wavebands. and it's not working, and I want to stop it there because that's throwing in the current limit. Let's take it apart, have a look inside and see what the damage is and what is causing that. 2 screws at the side of an R505 internally inside, and just there the aerial antenna screw, call it what you will, that needs to be removed as well. And disconnect the speaker, even though I've only just reconnected it. There's 1 and 2, and then with a suitable poking implement just push it out of the top of the casing. And then withdraw the radio. Now the R505 can be a particular challenge to remove from the case because, I don't know if you can see there, but the ferrite antenna butts very nicely up against that magnet on the back of the roller speaker. They're normally bad, but they're not normally that bad. So there we go, there's the radio out of the case. You may not be able to tell, try and get a better angle on that, that the post for the wave change switch has been pushed down and it's deformed this chassis part here. Closer inspection, get my magnifying glass on the job. Yeah, what is that? Let me just see if I can pick that out. Bizarrely, with a pick. Don't know where that's gone. There's a little shim of some sort of metal. It might be one of the tabs off the wafer. I don't know where it's gone, it's just disappeared off the side of the blue mat there. Well, immediately looking at the inside of it, we've got 2 capacitors missing, which is, I think it's C40, C42. Is there anything else immediately obvious? Right, anyway, let's get some capacitors in there. Yeah, I can see some soldering work here. I'll zoom you down. If I use a pointing stick, I can see some soldering work here. They've actually left the capacitor leg on, so they've probably broken off the 2 capacitors between. This is one capacitor that goes from here to here, and another one there that goes, this link wire is responsible for the quiescent current. That's been removed. There's also a transistor. An output transistor has been removed and shoehorned back in, and just here, so it's had one of the output transistors removed. So I'm just removing the solder from the back of the board and the legs, because whoever's removed these capacitors has left the old leggage in there. So they might have just turned and burned on the capacitors. I think it's right. That's those solder holes clear. So I need to put the 680 microfarad capacitor in there and bend the legs over on the other side so it doesn't run away while I'm putting the other one in, which is C42, I believe, yes, and is a 470 microfarad, which goes in thus. Bend those legs over. Whoops, there's my clock, 17:13. Right, now I need to look at that transistor there that's been removed and put back in badly, and they've actually lifted the pad. Right, that's got the leg and the other leg and the third leg, and we'll give it a power test as soon as I've put my clock away. Turn on the shock power supply, turn the volume down, still doing the same thing, and it's pulling the voltage down. Okay, so we've obviously got some serious sort of problem to resolve. Now my money is on C38 here, so I'm going to change this one as well. So there's the capacitor that I've just put in, that one there, and I just angle it away from the ferrite. Power supply on. Right, we are now not tripping out, but the voltage is still being pulled down. So I am now guessing that that is likely to be the output transistors. One little trick that I can try on that one is to remove the heatsink from said transistors like that and angle them away.
We are not seeing a lot of people with serious illness due to COVID.
There we go.
But it's always worth having your vaccine if you're due one.
So that's on VHF. So the set is now working. Now that did take a little while for it to charge the capacitors up for the radio to actually come on. So I'm going to now change this capacitor here in the middle, and that should solve that problem. The output transistors are working, but there's obviously some sort of short with them, and removing that heatsink from there, which will get, it's like cutting the screen lead on a AF117. It does the same sort of thing. It removes the earth from the chassis. It will continue probably for a long time. I won't specify a time, but it's likely to be years. Exactly like that, without the heatsink applied. Now, one thing that I can do to dissipate the heat from these is put some thermal, double-sided thermal tape onto the chassis and stick that down, and that removes the electrical contact between there, but still provides a thermal base. So now I've just changed this one here. I'm just going to do a proof of life on it, just make sure that that has now resolved the issue with it taking ages to come on. Power supply.
Gareth says that she's held talks with the FA about a new contract. England's women are 23 games unbeaten since Wiegman took.
Yeah, we're much better now. So it was, these two caps were missing here, which was C40 and C42. C38 at the bottom, that had gone way over spec, and the output pair were shorted to the chassis. So I do need to resolve that, so I'll do that now. And I use this thermal double-sided sticky tape. Pop that onto the chassis. Let's try at that edge from this side. There we go. Make sure that's stuck down to the chassis, and then put the output pair back onto the chassis. Then you've still got some room there for some thermal transfer, but they are no longer electrically shorted to the case. So next will be the alignment to make sure that it's working at its best, and then I'll have a look through my spare bits and pieces and see if I can find a dial face. So, and then I'm looking for symmetry at onset of clipping, and that is R36, which is this one down here that we've already adjusted. I'm looking at the scope. We're already bang on. So I need the dial scale back on. There's the broken one, look at that. Oh, there we go. Falling off. But it will be good for the moment, just for aligning the radio, and then I'll look to replace it. Right, so we should be on medium wave at 200 meters, which is about 1500 kilohertz, isn't it? meters and 1500 kilohertz on the signal generator dialed in. So on here, that's a technical thing, that just bending it. C31, get a bit of more volume on there. That was a country mile out, wasn't it? Let's turn that down for the benefit of you headphone wearers. Good. And C21, which is diametrically opposed. That pot there needs a clean. I'll have to give that a clean now because the signal's dropping out. So that's the first adjustment done there on 200 meters. We're now going to jump up to 526 meters, which is almost bob on. So we need to adjust here T7, which is this black one here. That's maximum peak on that one. So that's that now done. So I now need to find a dial face for it and pop it back together. So now we've got the alignment done and the radio is properly working. This is the old dial face. Obviously it's got that break in it there, which has been caused by the courier in transit. There's a little bit of a dent on there. I've managed to push that out a little bit just so it's not shorting at all on that switch. There were two capacitors actually missing, and the output pair, we've isolated those from the chassis with some thermal double-sided tape. Changed another capacitor as well. That meant that it would switch straight on instead of having to charge the cap up for a long time first. And we also changed C38 down there at the bottom. Did the alignment, all working, so we do just need to replace that. Now, had a look through my spares and I've got one. This is a slightly later one with slightly different station markings on, however it will physically fit and do the job royally. So I'm just going to give that a wipe over and a clean up. And now put this replacement dial face actually onto the radio. Get it central, put the bright bar back on, and then we need some clean knobs. Expecting comments on that one. So I'm going to put these in the ultrasonic bath. Back in a moment. And welcome back. We've got it back together now. All the work had been done on the radio, put it back in. I've cleaned the knobs and the dial face, and it looks very, very respectable now. I'll give you a general look around it in a moment, but just to show you. So that's it now switched off. There's the front of it. There are a couple of dings in the grill that I haven't been able to resolve. I replaced the aerial. Now the aerial that I've got stands slightly more proud than an original one would have done, but it's the only spare available one that I've got. I do have some other spares, but is what it is. I'm sending this back to him for nothing really, because he's been good enough to refund me and I'd not asked for that, and just pay it forward sometimes, don't you? But I'll give it a bit more of a polish up. There's the old British Wireless for the Blind logo on the back. Inside, I've popped a battery inside. I cut away some of that felt because it didn't need to be there, and there is the serial number. It's R505 number 29198, so it's not a particularly late one in the run. Get the bottom back on, and it easily passes the spin test, so that's all good. So yeah, there we go, from the grave back to the cradle again.
Okay.
Do like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the content. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.